Welcome to the Operate Intelligently podcast. This is part 2 of our movies and maintenance episode. If you want to check out the films we reviewed in the first part, listen to episode 81. And now on to the show. So that brings us to the third film that we picked. On this one, we found an example of maintenance where it's kind of totally gone off the rails. This movie is called Brazil. It's the 1985 Orwellian fantasy directed by Terry Gilliam of Monty Python fame. The movie basically stars a clerical worker who's kind of everyman hero. He's trying to do the right thing, and during the process, his air conditioning breaks down. But what's unique about it is that the air conditioning is all controlled through the government and through a central services department that is the maintenance department. And there's the scene we're going to play is interesting because it stars Robert De Niro, one of my favorite actors ever, playing a renegade heating engineer coming to fix Jonathan Pryce's air conditioning.
What are you doing? Harry Tuttle, heating engineer at your service. Tuttle? Are you from Central Services? I called Central Services.
Well, they're a little overworked these days. Luckily, I intercepted your call.
Just a minute. What was that business with the car?
It's just a precaution, sir. Just a precaution. I've had traps set for me before now. There are plenty of people in Central Services who'd love to get their hands on Harry Tuttle.
Are you telling me that this is illegal?
Well, yes and no. Officially, only Central Service operatives are supposed to touch the stuff. Would you hold this, please? But nowadays, with all the new rules and regulations, they can't get decent staff anymore. So they tend to turn a blind eye, as long as I'm careful. Mind you, so that they can prove that I've been working on their equipment. Now, that's a type of different color.
But wouldn't it be simpler just to, work with... Sorry, yes. I was saying, wouldn't it be simpler to work with Central Services?
Couldn't stand the pay. Getting warm.
You couldn't what? Couldn't stand the what?
Paperwork. Couldn't stand the paperwork. Listen, this whole system of yours could be on fire, and I couldn't even turn on a kitchen tap without filling out a 27B/6 bloody paperwork.
I suppose one has to expect a certain amount.
Why? I came into this game for the action, the excitement. Go anywhere, travel light, get in, get out, wherever there's trouble, a man alone. Now they got the whole country sectioned off. You can't make a move without a form.
That's one of my all-time favorite movies. 1985, I was younger at the time and hadn't seen it in many, many years. And Brazil is just a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. But
So I was going to say, Paul, do you have your 27B/6 form ready for today? No, I was going to say I'm with you as far as I think this is such a great film, and when we first started talking about doing the movies, that this was the scene that popped into my head because it does, it uses the maintenance similar to Big Brother in 1984, where this is how they're going to control you. Gilliam takes more of a humorous approach on it, like instead of through art or music or press, we're going to do it through your heating and cooling.
Yeah, it's first off to have Robert De Niro as an actor in a Monty Python-oriented type crew too. He does a fantastic job. It also reminds me that 26.7B/ whatever form. It also reminds me of Office Space with the TPS, and that's almost like a common phrase when you're asked to do too much paperwork. Why do you have me doing TPS forms? And so it's the same kind of concept, but that movie and the concept of maintenance is so central to that theme. There's so many great messages, and it's not likely most people have remember that scene. I strongly recommend watching that movie. But some of the wisdom I see from that particular scene is correlation to modern day IoT. the concept of assets alerting you when there are problems will change the way you no longer have to make phone calls when you have problems. In this case, Tuttle intercepts a phone call that the person made about the problem with their cooling and the room is so hot, and he intercepted it. But really, that's what a lot of these IoT concepts are these sensors on these assets that are going to catch these problems, because there's no way Central Services was going to get there that quick to take care of that becoming increasingly hot apartment that guy is living in. It just wasn't going to happen. And that's true in today's modern era. If you have problems with your assets, you may have to fill out a form. It may go somewhere. Eventually somebody gets requisitioned. Again, it's better than it used to be, because at least people are now using emails or using requesting portals and things of that nature. But if we can continue to take that to another level where we're catching the problems without human intervention necessarily in between there, to streamline and get somebody in there fast and quick, to get the right technician fast and quick, streamline the process. And I mean, that's 1985. They're talking about this in the scene, but I think it's absolutely applicable today. And what we're seeing more and more as this whole concept of the Internet of Things and these sensors are alerting us in advance.
The other thing that's interesting is when you mentioned the sensors and notification, it even ties back to the point you made in the Millennium Falcon and maintenance and the alerts and different technology that could keep them abreast of what they need to do in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're moving away from a calendar-based preventive maintenance or a run-to-fail corrective firefighting mode to a much more proactive, and these technologies are really going to help. Another thing that I think is interesting about this is the concept of paperwork. And everybody jokes about paperwork in movies and in many cases in real life, but the reality is paperwork is a necessary evil. Paperwork has to happen because it's all part of the accountability. The advantage now is it's all digital. You aren't filling out these forms anymore on paper, or hopefully you're not. And if you are, you really ought to be thinking about a CMMS system that can help digitize that process, because it is so much quicker. It is so much more streamlined. There's so much better from accountability and a research standpoint. But you just have to have an optimized digital process around it. Paperwork should not control the process. And that's one of the central themes to that scene is you can't do anything until you fill out that form. The thing could be on fire. I can't even turn on a fire hose until I fill out a form. You don't let the paperwork drive the process. You need good processes to solve your problems. The paperwork comes as a byproduct of that. And in maintenance, and especially with a good CMMS system, that's going to take care of itself, where that paperwork is no longer considered a chore. I also love the fact that Tuttle, Robert De Niro, who's sort of an anti-hero in this movie, he's got the right tools, he's got the right parts, he's a hero. And I love people looking at maintenance departments as heroes. I've had a lifelong mission, professional mission of mine, to change people's attitudes around maintenance as being those people that kind of scurry up from their office in the basement, fix the broken things. Everybody's mad at them because production is down, but it's not the maintenance person's fault necessarily. They're just the person who's got to get it better, fix the situation. Well, maintenance people, that's what they are. They're heroes. They have to save the day when it hits the fan, but they are heroes. And I think Tuttle in this case really is.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if the director kind of thought of that, like maybe seeing that in the back of his head, like, I can take everyday characters and make them the hero, because people wouldn't expect that in traditional films. And of course we all know that Terry Gilliam does not make traditional films, but at the same time, he does, in these kind of creative fantasies he creates, he does have a lot of it rooted in reality and what he's seeing. And then he kind of takes it to a different level. I agree with you. I think this is probably one of my favorite characters in film, and it's such a small part. It's literally that scene, but he comes in and does kind of just summarize it so well and provide this a bit of a comic relief, but with a serious overtone.
Yeah, it's great bringing that movie back in my life. I hadn't probably watched it in 20 plus years, so great movie.
And I also want to let everyone know that we'll share links out to the scenes that we have. This does bring us to our final movie that we looked at. And it's actually, so we picked a specific film, but this film actually had 3 sequels. So it's the Airport series. It started with the original movie, Airport, in 1970. It was during the time where you had the big disaster films, like The Poseidon Adventure, Towering Inferno, and I believe they just remade the Towering Inferno recently. Poseidon's been redone. I don't think they've done any of the Airport movies, but anyway, Airport in 1970, followed by Airport 75, Airport 77, and Airport 79. I have to admit, I loved all these films and went and saw the movies as a kid just because I was a big disaster movie fan. But for those of you that haven't seen it, the plots are all very similar in that the airplane is damaged. In the case of Airport 70, it's damaged because of someone who has sabotaged the flight by taking a bomb on board. But where the maintenance character really comes in is through the character Joe Petroni, who's played by George Kennedy, who is the only person that is in all 4 of the Airport movies. And there's a reason why, because he's the guy that's the mechanic that understands how the planes are made, and eventually he rises up to like VP of operation. In the clip we're going to play right here, he does a great job of kind of sharing, what he knows and how he came to know it.
Full throttle! All the way! You chickened out on me. I told you I wanted all the power you got.
Full throttle is going to be standing on its nose.
You might fly these things, but I take them apart and put them back together again. If you had any guts, we'd be on the runway by now.
You felt it vibrating? Another 10 seconds, we'd have had structural damage.
Who do you think you're talking to? Some kid that fixes bicycles? I know every inch of the 707. Take the wings off this and you could use it as a tank. This plane is built to withstand anything, except a bad pilot.
Such a great line. And just to give our listeners a little bit more context, what they're trying to do is to move a 707, which at that time was the largest jumbo jet, out of the way on a very snow-packed runway. And the pilot will not give it full throttle. And Petroni's telling him, like, give it full throttle. I know how this thing's built. I know what it can withstand.
When you were first bringing this one up, Brian, as a suggestion, I had the miscalculation of thinking of the movie Airplane versus Airport. And watching that scene, was it Leslie Nielsen? Is that the guy? I was just waiting for the comedy to kick in, and it doesn't come. And I had forgotten that movie is a disaster flick.
Well, and the beauty of Airplane is they even spoof Kennedy's character with Chuck Connors. And I think every time he says something, it's about how he's not getting what he needs, and he's the guy holding him all together. So again, they kind of realized what a central character he was in all those films, so that even in the spoof, I feel like they did him justice.
Well, I love the fact that you got a maintenance person who's the only one in all 4 of the Airport series, which is awesome. I that's probably a record that will never be broken, that's the central character. But you watch that scene and you think about, most organizations have a Petroni. They have that maintenance person that knows every asset. They know it inside and out. And you really think of the value of those veteran people. Unfortunately, you hear a lot about the aging workforce. Recent surveys we've done of our clients, it's still a pretty serious issue. And I'm guessing many of the listeners have the same situation where you've got people that are older, getting ready for retirement age, that know every inch of these assets, can take them apart and put them back together. They're great to have, but you got to capture that knowledge. They know the assets better than anybody. A good CMMS system is going to get you the features that you need to capture that information, videos of how to perform tasks that are routine for the veteran, but will be daunting for a new technician, especially after those people retire and move on. But building out good preventive maintenance procedures, and so forth. Understanding the limits of these assets. How hard can you push them? Obviously, in this case here, Petroni knew a lot more than the captain of the plane did, but it's pretty cool when they do that. I also love how you have production people, maintenance people get together to solve problems. I mean, that happens every day in the manufacturing environment. In this case here, you've got the pilot, you've got the pilots, you've got the maintenance director, you even got some people from management all in that cockpit dealing with this situation. I love it when maintenance people get included in solving problems. Maybe it's a situation that you're trying to get out of. Maybe it's improving a production situation, but they know these assets so well. You bring in these multiple silos. CMMS can really help with that. It can bring in your safety people. It can bring in your production people. It can bring in your maintenance, your engineering teams, because they can all be sort of tied together in the processes to bring those people and resources together. It's a great management tool for that type of stuff.
You know, and they show that also in other scenes of the movie where Petroni's in there, and it's the execs, you know, in the operation execs trying to, you know, kind of how do we deal with this disaster? But he's always in the room because they know they need that guy that's really taken this thing apart and put it back together and knows all the ins and outs to kind of verify and make sure the decision they make is going to be the right decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to thank Paul for joining me and helping me pick out these films. We had a lot of fun. If you know of some movies that you like and that you think there's a great maintenance or operations tail end there, drop us a note or leave us a comment and let us know what it is. We'll be more than happy to take a look at it and possibly do another episode where we could review movies and maintenance and some of the lessons learned.
Yeah, it's not your everyday podcast and presentation, but this was fun. And there is so much correlation and so much wisdom we can use from these things. So, yeah, a whole lot of fun.
So, again, thanks, Paul, and thanks for listening. We will share out the movie clips in the show notes. And until next time, I'm Brian McDonald at Dude Solutions.
Thank you for listening to the Operate Intelligently podcast. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a review, and you can even email us at dspodcast@dudesolutions.com.